I'm Greg Miles, and I'm sitting here with Lloyd Crews, who is running for Southfield City Council. First off, I'd like to ask you to describe yourself to the voters.
Sure, absolutely. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you today, Greg. Just to tell you a little bit about myself, I'm a resident of Southfield, been here for a little bit over 7 years now. I live here with my son, who's 10-year-old, attending Brace Letterly schools. I work here in the city as well. I've been working as the Dean of Campus Affairs at the Oakland Community College Southfield campus for the last 13 years now. And just really ready to get even more involved in the city and things that are going on in Southfield. I've been actively involved in a number of community organizations in the area. I've been on the board of the Boys and Girls Club of South Oakland County as a trustee. I've been the vice chair of the American Red Cross Board for Southeastern Michigan, as well as Southfield Educational Partnership Council, and president of the Southfield Rotary Club, and all of which are very civically oriented organizations that work for the good of people and citizens in this area, and I want to take that service to another level and serving on City Council.
All right. Thanks. What would you describe your vision for the city is?
I think when you're talking about developing a vision, it needs to be one that's going to be all-inclusive. So as one member of council, I can tell you about certain things that are near and dear to me personally, but in terms of developing an overall strategic vision, it's something that I would want to sit down with my colleagues as well as with the community to talk about overall what everyone would like to see Southfield look like in the next 5, 10, 15 years from now. But in terms of the platform that I'm running on as a candidate, there are 3 major areas that we want to focus on. One of those is going to be code enforcement. And when we're talking about code enforcement, I know most people generally think about residential codes and housing and neighborhoods, and that is part of it. We do want to review those codes that are on the books currently to see if there's anywhere we can maybe beef up certain things to, again, maintain a certain standard here in the city of Southfield in our neighborhoods, in our homes, particularly those that may be renting or rented by individuals who don't necessarily live here in the city. I mean, a lot of homes went into foreclosure. They were purchased by outside buyers and then have rented them out, and not always have they kept them up to the standard that we would like them to keep them up to. So, that's something that we want to, keep in mind. But I'm really interested in developing and implementing a stronger code for businesses in the area. Just like in residential areas, I think our business community should maintain a certain standard as well. And if you go through the city, you see some businesses who really take a great deal of pride in their buildings and their operations, and then there's others that take a little bit less pride into their entities. So we want to make sure that there's at least a bottom line standard for everyone, that when you come into this city, you know that you're in Southfield. It should be a difference when you come into the city, when a look and a feel, both in the neighborhoods and in our business community. Along with that, we also want to focus on public safety and continuing to give public safety the resources that they need to do the work that they do, maintain safe neighborhoods and communities. With Southfield being the first-run suburb, our police officers are working double time, towing the line at 8 Mile to make sure that our city maintains the level of safety that we want and that we expect from it. So we need to be cognizant of that and be sure that we're giving them the resources that they need to carry those things out. Lastly would be economic development, and then in particular recruiting new businesses to the area as well as retaining those that are here. We need to, again, it takes a very strategic plan to sit down and really go after the types of businesses and entities that you want in your city. And we can't just wait for individuals to come to us to tell us that they're interested in coming to be with us. We need to go after the ones that we want to see here, and again, maintain that standard that we're looking to see Southfield be, like I said, in the next 5-10 years.
All right. One of the things that keeps coming up is the money issue. While Southfield isn't in the position that Detroit is, our economic base has shrunken a little bit, and the city doesn't have the money that it had in, let's say, the 90s. keeping in mind the lower property taxes and the money that the city is bringing in, how would you set priorities into what money is spent where?
Yeah. Well, let me say this about the budget. You will hear from a lot of the current council members talking about, the council and the city being very fiscally responsible, and in that I would definitely agree that over the years the city has done a good job at maintaining its finances, as cutting where they could, so that we would maintain balanced budgets over the years. What I think has been missing, though, in all of that time is, while we've been doing a lot of cutting, we haven't been very proactive in looking at different and new revenue streams to bring into the city. So we can't cut our way out of deficits. At some point, you do have to sit down and think about what other ways can we find to bring new revenue into this city. One thing that I will give credit to the council at this point that they have done that I would definitely want to see more of is the development of new the condos and lofts in the area. That is going to be that's a whole new revenue stream that never existed, because that's going to attract a different type of resident to this city. It's going to attract a younger, more possibly single, or people that don't have kids, married couples without kids or partners and so forth, that just want to live in a space where they don't have to maintain a yard and clean the gutters and do all those types of things that we have to do in more residential spaces. They want places that are going to have walkable communities. So, building these lofts and things of that nature are going to also attract, different eateries to come into the area, maybe small grocery stores or convenience stores and things of that nature. And so, it starts to open up a whole different type of revenue stream. So, when I look at prioritizing the budget, yes, if you're going to just look at it as this is all we have to work with, and now where do we cut so that we don't go over budget, I think that's a poor way of looking at doing business. I think we need a new business model that's going to be more proactive and look to actually increase and look for different and diverse revenue streams, so that we can maintain what we have and actually grow and even provide more broad range services to the city, and maybe even bring something back like the fireworks. Okay, that's something that was cut out of our budget but was never looked at. Was there another way that we can fund this? Are there community partners or business partners that might want to sponsor something like that? Instead, the city just said, well, we have to cut it because we don't have the money. And if given the choice between having, my trash picked up or the fireworks, certainly I would want my trash picked up on time. But what have you done beyond just cutting to figure out ways that we can still maintain the things that we're used to having here in Southfield? And so that's the approach that I would take when it comes to regard to our budget.
All right. Earlier you mentioned a little bit about economic development. For one of the last major projects, particularly, well, what I'm talking about is the Walmart, there was a lot of friction between the residents and the business development community, and I was just wondering how you would try to bring those interests together. We have to hear all voices when we're looking at these types of things. I'll tell you this, and looking at how the Walmart piece rolled out, I think that certain members of council and leadership had already made up their minds about what they wanted to get done and had not consulted the people and talked to them enough about options, about how we could develop that and maybe ease some of the concerns of the residents. And so whenever you don't have that level of communication, people feel like that you're pushing something down their throats and they're gonna push back, and I think that's part of what we saw with the Walmart piece. And I mean, if I had been sitting on that council with all those voices at the table that were coming out against the Walmart, I would have had to vote against it myself. We're here as representatives of the people in this city, and so we don't simply just tell people what we're going to do. Our job really is to be out listening, hearing from the people and seeing are there alternate ways. And there are other places Walmart could have gone in this city. It wasn't that it necessarily had to be right there on 12 Mile and Southfield. That may have been where Walmart wanted to go, but it's incumbent upon the council and those decision makers to bring Walmart and the people together about what are the needs, what are we trying to accomplish, and what's in the best interest of the city. Again, I'll just go back to the fact that I think if the city had a very clear strategic plan and vision,
you could look at something like a Walmart and decide whether or not that's even something that we want. And again, I think these projects kind of come to us as kind of one-off projects and are not part of a unified plan that everyone has an investment in, and therefore you continue to have the friction. So I would go back to again saying that any of those major type of projects that we're going in the city, those are things that I would want to have part of a strategic plan that, again, that's all-inclusive of not only what things council members want, but what residents want as well, and that we're hearing from them, hearing their voice, and acting out on their behalf.
One issue that has been very controversial over the last couple of years are tax abatements. I just wanted to figure out what your position on those were.
You know, I see, from what I can tell, in cities that have done it, I don't think that they have been as beneficial as they may seem. I think they may have an initial positive impact in terms of maybe, you know, attracting individuals or businesses to an area, but long term, I don't know that it does a great job for us, or actually accomplishes the overall goal that we're trying to achieve, as well as it kind of, you know, to some degree punishes those that have already been here and have invested and been paying into the city and for city services, and you know, I don't know that that's fair for those that have already been here and are committed to the city to the degree that they have. So you know, I think there could be instances where abatements could be a positive thing, but I wouldn't be open for a whole lot of them. I'd be very cautious about them.
I was just wondering also, how proactive are you about the issues that you care about? I'm just trying to get a feel for, if you get elected, not only what you would go after, but how hard would you work to go after it?
I would work extremely hard at it. I mean, the whole purpose of me running is because I want to see things get done. I'm an action-oriented person, a results-oriented person, and the way that, again, that I would approach it in working on council is really to charge my colleagues to really sit down and have a real plan in which we would, every council meeting, revisit that plan and make sure that the items and things that we're discussing and decisions that we're making fit within that plan, and that we're actually achieving certain designated outcomes and goals, and not just looking at just whatever comes before us during that particular time. So I really see I feel there's a lot of time that's wasted during council meetings. A lot of time I don't see the real clear direction, and that's bothersome to me. And I would be someone that would be very actively and vocally challenging them to be more strategic about the work that they're doing.
Right. The city competes with other communities regionally for population, for businesses, and for grant money, but we also have common interests with them in a lot of ways. I was wondering how you would balance those two things. How would you balance occasionally having to work with other communities and also, you know, competing with them for various things?
Well, I think that's with any with the city, for myself, like us in higher education with schools, we're all kind of competing for many of the same people, and so again, there are instances where partnering works and makes sense, and there are times when it does not. I mean, if it gets to a point where, I mean, we do a lot of sharing with Latham Village that sits right here, you know, in the center of our city, in terms of fire services and things of that nature, that you know, that they can't necessarily afford on their own, being such a smaller entity, but we can absorb that and work with them and you know, providing that service. I see that as a net positive. Okay, I mean, it makes sense. They're right here in the city already. It's not really stretching us to be able to do that, and they're making a contribution to get that service. So, you know, I see that as a positive. But anything that's not any type of partnership or working with other cities that is not going to be mutually beneficial to our residents is not going to be one that we want to invest in. So, you know, it's going to have to, you know, it's going to be a cost-benefit analysis with any type of partnership that you take, and I would always be weighing the benefits towards our residents, and that would be my primary goal, is that whatever type of partnership we'd engage in, that we would have equal benefit as any other city or entity that we're partnering with.
recently the city has started reconstructing Evergreen Road, and during those conversations, a lot of the discussion was about how we were going to fund it, and I was just wondering how would you balance funding things and infrastructure if you were in office? I'm just saying that I don't know if we could necessarily go after every road project that, would be good. So how would you make decisions about that sort of thing in office?
Well, I think you have to be realistic about what you can get done and what resources are available. You would have to look at the location. Is it a prime business area that gets a lot of traffic where, a lot of revenue is generated in that area, and is that a place that we want to make sure that our streets are in good shape so that people continue to move through those those major arteries throughout the city? So there's various factors that you want to look at in terms of how you would make those decisions. Ultimately, we like to fix all of them, but I think we look at opportunities where we can find grant money wherever possible. I think we look at making sure that we're holding the county accountable for certain roads that run through our city that they're responsible for, making sure that they're keeping them up to a certain standard, and then whatever's left there for us that's responsible for us, that we again have a plan on way to prioritize those projects to make sure the ones that are most important get done first, and work our way down to get as many accomplished as we can.
Often the City Council will bring up Northland Mall and the need to sort of kind of clean up that area. I was just wondering what your thoughts on the matter are.
Well, I live a stone's throw away from Northland, and it's very disheartening for me every time I look at Northland and see, one of the oldest malls in this country in the shape that it is right now. And so I think there's a couple things that I would want to see done there, and I'll tell you, one is you brought up the Walmart issue. That's one prime location where I could have seen a Walmart going. There's so much space there, not only just the size of the mall itself, but the lot that it sits on is just tremendous. And so, there was a huge opportunity right there to have some, to bring in a Walmart or something like that over into that area. Another way that we might be able to kind of encourage some more development over there is, again, going back, looking through code enforcement, particularly for those businesses, and making sure that, if you're going to just kind of keep this building here in our city, you're not going to really try to develop it very much. You're going to still have to make it look a certain way, and I think by making the owners have a greater investment in the building and in the infrastructure itself, would then encourage them to want to do more to, bring more businesses and more to that particular mall so they can generate more revenue for it, because they're going to have to pay for those projects somehow. So, I think that, Northland would be great for that. I could also see, again, given all of the space over there, something like what we have here right down the street here with the Arbor Lofts. I could see some living spaces being developed there, and again, some walkable communities even in that area, with some small shops and eateries around in that area that, again, would bring a new revenue stream, but make better use of just all of that land and that large concrete space that's really just doing nothing for the city right now. So, I'd be open to all those types of ideas, as well as, working with the city planner and the Downtown Development Authority. They just developed a strategic plan for that area. That's something that I think, again, that the council should be looking at, and maybe there's some ideas in that plan that need to be adopted by the city and support it, and making sure that that area gets developed, because we got to do more than just develop, one or two portions of the city. The entire city needs to be addressed, and that's an area that's been overlooked for a long time.
Previously, you mentioned renters, and I was just trying to get an idea of what you believe the role of the city should be between renters and the property owners close to them. What role do you see the city taking in those sorts of issues?
Right. I would love to see, first of all, let me say, when I'm talking about renters, I'm not talking about the actual people in those facilities paying the rent. I'm more talking about those people that actually own it, that are just simply wanting to buy it to rent it out. I would love to see some way that we could work with those entities to find some way to do a rent-to-own type scenario where people that actually want to own their homes over time could rent them and actually move into them and become permanent residents of this city and taxpayers in this city instead of just renting. I think that would be the ideal situation, is that those places that are being rented would ultimately become places where people own those homes and live there, because that is what really helps to build community, is when you have home ownership, when you have skin in the game, and you have a sense of community, your neighbors, your neighborhood, place for your kids to grow up and families to visit. That's what I would really like to see going on here in the city. So, I think that the city should really work hard at working with those people, those folks that are renting homes and other facilities out in the city, to see if there's any ways that we can work in developing those types of partnerships or pathways for residents to home ownership.
I was also hoping that you could give me your thoughts on walkability in the city. What do you think about sidewalks and funding sidewalks, also bike paths and complete streets?
I'll be all for that. Actually, I can tell you about a project near my home where sidewalks were put in probably about 2 years ago, and how many people have taken advantage of that in terms of just being out jogging, riding bikes, walking dogs, and things of that nature. It was just, before that, you had to walk in the street if you wanted to, or run in the street if you wanted to go out jogging in the neighborhood or whatever the case may be. Those things just didn't exist. So I'm all for those types of things. I think that they are sustainable for the city in terms of being able to allow people to walk places instead of drive. That's a good thing. It cuts down on a little bit of the traffic, plus it saves some of the environment at the same time, and keeps people healthy and stuff. So all those are important things for a city to maintain its viability and sustainability. And so I would be always in favor of looking for projects like that to support.
Right. Do you feel that Southfield has any unique concerns? What concerns in particular do you think are unique to this city? I think that the fact again that we border Detroit and that we're a first-rung suburb is our biggest issue in my idea. I mean, if you compare us to our competitors, I call our competitors mainly Farmington Hills or West Bloomfield, they don't have to deal with the same elements that our city has to. That's what makes us unique, and that's what makes us have to be a lot more strategic about our resources and where we put them. Because even though our police team is awesome, our response times are great, but we have to understand that they're working double time compared to their counterparts in a Bloomfield, West Bloomfield, or Farmington Hills type scenario. So I think overall that's probably one of the biggest things that I see as an issue. That, as well as finding and bringing new residents and younger residents into our community. And I think that we're headed in the right direction for that, but we need to be a lot more aggressive about recruiting and retaining those younger residents. You may have already answered this question, but I'm just going to ask it again. What specifically do you feel the city's role in development is? What specifically do you feel the city should be doing regarding bringing developers to the table?
Well, I mean, I guess I would really want to see. No, I shouldn't say I wouldn't want to see. I think we have a city planner. That's part of what the city planner helps the council to do. I think we need to listen to him. He's a professional. We hire him for a reason, to kind of set a plan for us, and then kind of give us, if you will, our direction in how we should go about pursuing and what we should go about pursuing. And I think it's fully incumbent upon the council to pursue those things. We're the ambassadors of this city. We have to sell Southfield to these companies, and restaurants and groceries or whatever we're trying to bring to the city. We have to sell them on the fact that this is the best place to be. This is where you need to be, and why. And if we can't tell that story, then who can? So I think, I guess to your question, we're fully responsible for it. But I do think that the council has not taken the expertise of some of its staff seriously enough, because I've seen some. I think there's some good ideas that we could have maybe taken advantage of over time, and we just have not. And I think that we need to do that in the future. And I would be somebody that would be open to those types of things, because I am open to change and open to new ideas, and those are some things that I've seen left on the table. Just the conversations at the table, whenever there's a new idea introduced about, well, let's try it this way, the conversation seems to end up at, well, we tried that already, or that's never going to work, before we even try these types of things. So that would not be my mindset as a member of council. I'd be certainly someone that's open to trying new ideas and looking at new ways of doing business.
Something else that I think is important is, what do you feel the city's relationship to the school board should be?
Yeah. As an educator, education is paramount to me. I personally have built a good relationship with our school board, with the Southfield School Board, as an administrator at Oakland Community College. I've been engaged in a number of partnerships and relationships with them. I think it's a great board. It's a great superintendent. Southfield, unlike other cities, doesn't really have a very, a real responsibility, if you will, for the school board. But we have to be realistic about the fact that people make decisions about where they live based on school systems. And school systems can very much be economic drivers for cities. So as much as we can be partners and as much as we can support the schools, I think we need to be there. And so I think that there should be a constant conversation going on about where is it that we can, as a council, as a city, support what the schools are trying to do and trying to accomplish, because there are a lot of proactive things going on there. They have realized certain budget cuts from the state as well, like everybody else has. They're currently pursuing a millage renewal right now that I fully support and am in favor of, because I believe in this school system, and I think it's a great system. My son attends Brace Letterly here in Southfield, and prior to me moving to Southfield, I had my son in private school, because there was no school in Detroit for him to go to. But I'm very pleased with our school system here. And as a member of council, I will always want a constant communication with our school system and do everything we could to continually improve it and make it a premier school district, because I think that will continue to help fulfill our goal of being a premier city, and increasing revenues, increasing residents, and everything that we would like to see for the city to be.
All right. I'm almost at the point where the allotted time is supposed to go. I was just wondering if there was anything else you wanted to say to the audience.
The one thing I was going to mention, if it hadn't come up, was about the schools, and particularly about the millage. And again, just restating the fact that even though we don't necessarily have direct responsibility for it, that it's something that I would support, and we want the district, want the council to support. In all, again, I'm running for council because as I looked at the council over the last few years, I can tell you, going to meetings and listening to agenda items being discussed and things of that nature, I didn't feel like my voice was present on the council. I didn't see myself on that council. I didn't hear my voice on that council, and that had a lot to do with what motivated me to want to run. And so I think that I think we've all recognized the change in council in the last couple of years with a new young member, Councilman Moss, who I think has brought a lot of life and energy to the council. And I think that there's room for another voice at the table as well, to complement what Councilman Moss has done, along with the good leadership of folks like the Council President Ken Siver, who I think has done a fine job at leading this group, but could use a little help. And I want to be someone that can come along and help him in his move the city in a direction that I think that we all collectively want to move in.
All right. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.